Yes, my question was about Matthew 16:18. I've been encountering many Roman Catholics about this verse, and they make a particular argument about the changing of Peter's name from Simon to Kephas, and they say that in the same fashion of like Abraham and his name change, it requires a promotion to a certain position. So how would you respond to that argument?
Well, there's nothing about Kephas in Matthew 16:18, first of all. So they are assuming a Aramaic original that we do not possess. And as Chris Karagunas has argued, we don't know what the Aramaic would be, but there is a better possibility that instead of Kepha, you would have used something like Minra in a context like this. But again, it's all speculation. Even though Rome claims great authority, they can't claim to be able to know what we don't possess. And the canonical version of Matthew, even in Roman Catholicism, is still the Greek version of Matthew and not anything other than that. So what is important in Matthew 16 is not sui petras kai epitaute te petra, and many Protestants, I think, erroneously try to make a distinction between Petros, little stone, and Petra, big stone. That's a very common argument, but I don't think it's an argument that has a whole lot of weight to it.
Right.
Instead, what people miss is the fact that it goes from hati su, you are Petros, kai epi taute te Petra, and upon this rock. So there is a absolutely grammatically and syntactically necessary disjunction between the direct address, second person, to you. You are Peter. And upon this rock. Now, it doesn't say upon you. It says upon this rock. Now, the only reason to put taute in there is for it to point to something other than Peter. And the only thing, and this is a very common interpretation. In fact, it's a much more common interpretation in the early church fathers and the patristics than anything supporting a Roman Catholic viewpoint. And that is that taute is referring back to Peter's confession, which came in verse 16, and that was the object of the blessing of Jesus. He says that flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. So this is an actual revelation of who Christ is, and it is upon that rock that Christ builds his church. And so there's no other reason for taute to be there. There is a disjunction there. And you can continue that on by then going to verse 18, and I will give to you, and it is singular, and I will give to you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And Roman Catholics love to focus upon that. See, Peter's given the keys, and the apostles only participate in blah, blah, blah. And then asking the question, where in Matthew does Peter receive these keys? And the fact is, there is no place where Peter alone receives keys. So you either have to say, well, yeah, Matthew just doesn't record it, or you have to recognize that Peter received these keys along with the other apostles in Matthew chapter 18. As an equal, not as a superior.
Would an argument also follow that if they say that Peter alone receives those keys, wouldn't they be proving too much? Because if Peter alone receives those keys, that means only he does and nobody else, not even supposed successors.
Well, you would think. I mean, they're just going to automatically assume if they're given to Peter, then Peter has to pass them on to somebody else, even though there's nothing about succession in key holding. There's nothing about what the nature of the keys are. The nature of the keys are obviously binding and loosing, which has to do with what the gospel does in its proclamation. That's what the Holy Spirit allows the church to do, blah, blah, blah. And more importantly, Jesus says he continues to hold the keys in Revelation chapter 2 or 3, as I recall. So you have those issues as well. So There are lots of problems. If you go back, we've done the debate on the papacy numerous times, and both in my debates with Jerry Matitix, who I just saw yesterday. Did you see that, Rich? Jerry Matitix did some type of Skype thing with Matt Slick, and I clipped through to just find where Jerry was talking, and it's like, man, I remember when he was just a young guy, and so was I. And secondly, in fact, I look older than he does. And secondly, he's still arguing the exact same things that we've refuted 1,000 times before, years and years later. It's sort of sad to see. But anyway, if you go back and to the debate on the papacy, the very, very lengthy debate on the papacy that we did in Colorado, there will be a rather full discussion of that, as well as the debate with Mitch Pacwa. We go through Matthew 16 rather painstakingly in those two debates.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Jeremiah. Keep up the good work out there.